suffering that you've gone through. And so you're going to be exposed to the principle of physician heal thyself, the wounded healer. The idea that through having woundedness within ourselves and experiencing firsthand the blessing that that is, that enables us to sit in a calmness, sit with compassion, and not try to exterminate the other person's problem, not try to fix it right away. Because we know that it's happening for a purpose and we can be with the client, whatever modality we're using, to help them embrace their problem, learn from it, and move along. So you'll be also being then exposed to the idea of finding the meaning in a problem, listening to what it has to say. And how you can help your client do that is that if you have faith from your own experience that the meaning is there to be found. And to find the meaning then, we want to then look at ourselves in trouble, as if we're holding up a mirror. You're perhaps familiar with the metaphysical idea that all of life is a mirror and we are reflected in this mirror. Everything we experience is a reflection of ourselves, greeting us, asking for our recognition. I am you. Thou art that, which is the perennial philosophy that you and your experience and the world out there are one. This is the fundamental spiritual premise, and illness sometimes comes along to help us make this discovery. Now, other things that you'll be encountering in this story, in this lecture, is terms having to do with alchemy, turning lead into gold, the lead of the problem, the gold of the self-realization. Alchemy concerns transformation. I think a great image of alchemy is cooking in the kitchen, where raw groceries is turned into food, something that you can eat. And so the alchemy of you sitting with the client, being with them, maybe, as you'll see, not even physically present, but nevertheless being with them in such a way that there is a transformation of fighting this problem, why me, and resisting it, to accepting it, embracing it, learning from it, and being changed. And your role in this alchemy is by your being in a healing way, being with a healing presence of love, acceptance, patience, listening, caring, these qualities. So what you're going to be hearing in this particular talk is me explaining then the rationale of this perspective. And this perspective permeates all of the different therapies, from past life therapy, body work, breath work, healing touch, spirit retrieval, you name it. That underneath it is that if you don't wish to be contributing to the problem by resisting it, then you need to have some appreciation for the transformative value of your own problems so that you can sit in a healing way with a healing presence with the other person as they go through their journey, their discovery, as their healing blesses them. Their problem brings greater awareness to them. Okay, so that's the general idea. That's what you're going to be hearing about. And now let's go and listen to me talk to the class of students at Atlantic University as I go into some detail about these kinds of ideas. Presentation about counseling or healing from a transpersonal perspective. And to do that, I'd like to begin by giving you a mythical perspective on the origin of who we are. Because a spiritual perspective on counseling, on healing, presupposes that you have a spiritual understanding of what we're about. Now, most myths of creation talk about the fact that the Creator, before the Creator created anything, was in a sleep, a slumber. And as the Creator awoke, that process of the Creator awakening and creating was a process of separating. In the Bible, for example, it talks about how God separated the heaven from the earth, separated the light from the dark, separated the male from the female. Lots of creating of polarity. We have in the Eastern tradition the notion of yin and yang, the two forces or two qualities or two poles, and there's a tension between them, a flip-flop, 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 that creates an electricity, an energy, a dynamic. Now, this same kind of process then of creation by dividing goes on in the creation of an individual. That is, that as a baby is born by separating from the mother, but in their consciousness, for some time, the baby and the mother are as one. The baby doesn't experience itself as being separate from the environment. Then at some point, the little baby eats of the tree of knowledge and wakes up and recognizes, hey, I'm a somebody, there's the world out there, I'm here. And then turns, oh, and there's Mom, I didn't realize we were so far apart, and rushes over to Mom to be close again. And then once feeling secure, ventures out away to explore. And that's the beginning of what we would call the hero motif of the little kid going out on their own to be a somebody. Now, this same motif of the separation into the two parts goes on as the person develops. That is, they get a sense of themselves, who I am, and parts of themselves that they're not. In other words, to use Carl Jung's terms, we would have a sense of persona, of ego, of self, and then there's a quality of shadow, of parts of ourselves that we don't accept, that we tend to reject. We might reject parts of ourselves because our parents don't like those parts. For example, a little kid can be very boisterous and wild, and the parents say, hey, calm down now, and mind your manners. And the kid learns that the part that shouts and the part that hits and the part that's wild is not quite as acceptable to the parent as the part that's polite or the part that obeys and so on. We learn in school that the teacher likes certain parts of us that do what we're told, but the teacher doesn't like the part that wants to rebel, that wants to deny what the teacher has to say. We learn to accept parts of us that are cautious, that look out for our own survival, and we tend to perhaps suppress parts of ourselves that are carefree, that are reckless, that act dangerously, because those characteristics could get us in trouble. All the while that we're developing, we're going through a process in which we are developing certain aspects of ourselves and arresting the development of other aspects. Now, the mystery of life seems to be, though, that it's as if the Creator wants really for us to experience all of everything, all of ourselves. So as we get too overdeveloped in a particular way and have something else suppressed, something seems to happen to call this to our attention. Now, the Native Americans have a very interesting word and concept for this process. And this word will take us right into a whole model of healing which we have identified in Western tradition as homeopathic healing. And homeopathic healing is distinguished from allopathic healing in that the illness is looked at as an ally. The illness is looked at as a guide. The illness is looked at as a helper. Now, what's the Native American concept?
It's medicine.